The internet has seen its fair share of explosive leaks over the years, but every once in a while, a revelation comes along that doesn't just ripple across headlines, it detonates. This is one of those moments. A new whistleblower, previously unknown to the public, has stepped forward with what he claims is the smoking gun that connects Meghan Markle to one of the world's most notorious elite gatherings, Croatia Yacht Week. Not just through hearsay, not through whispers or blurred paparazzi snaps, but with actual photographic evidence, time-stamped and geotagged, showing the now Duchess in a setting few would have imagined, and many feared was real. His name is Christopher Jones. To most, he was just another face among the crew of luxury yachts that the Mediterranean every summer. But now he stepped into the spotlight, not with words, but with data. GPS-tagged metadata. Never-before-seen images. A digital trail, he insists, that cannot be denied or dismissed. The claim? That Meghan Markle, long before her marriage into British royalty, wasn't simply vacationing in Croatia. She was allegedly part of an inner circle of models and aspiring actresses who mingled closely, some say too closely, with powerful billionaires aboard private yachts. A world hidden behind glamour, private invitations, and silent agreements. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. This isn't the first time whispers about Meghan's past have surfaced, but it may very well be the first time those whispers have come armed with proof. And the timing couldn't be more delicate. With the Sussexes increasingly isolated from the royal fold and their public image fluctuating wildly, a revelation like this could be devastating. Not just for Meghan personally, but for the brand they've fought so hard to build post-Megxit. The leak didn't start as an intentional exposé. According to Jones, he had held onto the photos for years, unsure whether revealing them would cause more harm than good. He said he was told not to speak, advised by both his employers and unnamed clients that what happened aboard the yacht stays aboard the yachts. But in the age of digital permanence, silence is rarely eternal. Something changed this year. Maybe it was the recent controversies surrounding the Sussex brand. Maybe it was the way the media portrayed Meghan as a misunderstood victim. Or perhaps, according to Jones, it was simply time for the truth. In the photos Jones leaked to an independent European journalist, a woman resembling Meghan is seen lounging in a bikini aboard a sleek white yacht. The vessel is docked off the Croatian coast, surrounded by several other luxury liners. But this wasn't any ordinary summer trip. The background buzz identifies it as Croatia Yacht Week, a world-famous, hedonistic week-long event where money, power, and image collide. According to Jones, these images are not just visual evidence. They contain digital data embedded by the camera, showing the exact location and time they were taken. He didn't stop there. In an exclusive statement, Jones claimed he kept a private journal during his time working these events. Not just a memory aid, but a logbook. He wrote down names, encounters, and even conversations he overheard. In his own words, he wanted to remember the absurdity of it all. When asked why Meghan's presence stuck with him, his answer was chilling in its simplicity, because she was different. Not in a negative sense, but in a calculated way. She wasn't the loudest, the wildest, or the most glamorous. She was observant, strategic, and, according to Jones, always aware of who was watching. If true, these revelations could rewrite the narrative we've been told about Meghan's meteoric rise. From deal or no-deal suitcase girl to Suits actress to Duchess of Sussex, the transformation was already a fairy tale. But what if the script had been pre-written? What if, behind the polished public image, there was a calculated journey through powerful social circles, culminating in the ultimate crown, royalty? Of course, the backlash was immediate. Within hours of the leak, royal watchers, internet sleuths, and even amateur metadata analysts began dissecting every pixel of the leaked images. Facial structure, freckles, hairlines, all scrutinized to confirm or debunk the identity of the woman in the photos. Some were convinced immediately. Others raised questions about the photo's authenticity, the possibility of deepfakes, or simple mistaken identity. But what they couldn't deny was the GPS data embedded in the files, data that placed the yacht and the photo precisely off the coast of Var, Croatia, during the summer of 2015. The same year Meghan was supposedly back in Toronto filming Suits. Supporters of Meghan have been quick to call foul. They argue this is just another character assassination attempt fueled by misogyny, racism, and jealousy. To them, the entire yacht girl narrative is a recycled, sexist trope used to discredit women who dare to ascend into power on their own terms. But for skeptics and former royal insiders, this isn't about smearing. It's about accountability and truth. They point to a pattern: redacted travel details, inconsistencies in timelines, and vague anecdotes from Meghan about her life before royalty. Could this be the missing puzzle piece? In the hours following the release, an anonymous source within one of the royal households reportedly remarked that this leak, if proven authentic, changes everything. While Buckingham Palace has remained silent, insiders suggest that damage control may already be underway behind closed doors. For a monarchy that values discretion and tightly controls image, a revelation of this magnitude, especially one tied to private international affairs, could be catastrophic. What makes this even more intriguing is the kind of people allegedly on that yacht. Jones claims some of the men seen in the photos are ultra-wealthy individuals with ties to real estate, arms industries, and foreign governments. One was reportedly a known associate of a now-deceased oligarch. If true, it suggests that Meghan wasn't just among Hollywood aspirants. She was navigating a web of international power and influence, whether knowingly or not. And if that's the case, the implications stretch far beyond gossip. From a legal standpoint, the release of these photos walks a fine line. Jones has reportedly taken steps to anonymize all other individuals captured in the frames, blurring faces and hiding distinguishing marks. However, if the woman pictured is indeed Meghan Markle, and she is not fully clothed in all images, then her legal team may pursue action based on invasion of privacy, misuse of likeness, or even defamation, assuming they dispute the authenticity. But legal threats haven't deterred Jones. In fact, his stance has only grown firmer. He told the journalist, "This isn't about destroying someone's life. It's about truth. The public has been fed a narrative, and the pieces just don't add up. I'm not the only one who knows. I'm just the first to speak." In a media landscape already teetering between entertainment and investigation, this story straddles both. It's a scandal wrapped in luxury, a fairy tale possibly written on the backs of secrets, a duchess, a yacht, and a trail of digital breadcrumbs that might lead to the undoing of an entire narrative. And so, the question remains, was Meghan Markle truly on that yacht during Croatia Yacht Week? Was she a participant in events that her current public image would prefer the world to forget? Or is this all a sinister smear campaign driven by envy and obsession? In the upcoming segments, we will explore everything. We'll examine Christopher Jones' background and credibility. We'll analyze the GPS metadata behind the photos. We'll explore Meghan's timeline from 2015. We'll speak to yacht crew insiders, image analysts, legal experts, and even individuals who were allegedly on that very same yacht. We will dig into the lesser-known whispers that have followed Meghan for years. And ultimately, we will confront the uncomfortable truth, whatever that may be. Before his name made headlines, before he was trending on social media and referenced in YouTube exposés, Christopher Jones was, by all accounts, invisible. A background figure. A man paid to keep the elite comfortable and the engines of luxury life humming quietly beneath the surface. He never craved attention, and his job, like that of many crew members aboard the yachts of the rich and powerful, depended on discretion. But something changed. And now, Christopher Jones is the man blowing the lid off a story the world never saw coming. So who is he? Christopher was born in Portsmouth, England, a coastal town known more for its naval history than high society. Raised in a working-class household, he grew up near the water, watching ships glide across the harbor and dreaming of faraway places. His father worked as a dock worker, and his mother was a part-time school librarian. They weren't wealthy, but they instilled in him a sense of integrity, a relentless work ethic, and a fascination with life beyond the English Channel. At 19, armed with little more than a duffel bag and a basic seafarer's certificate, Christopher boarded his first yacht as a deckhand. The job was tough, long hours, physical labor, and virtually no personal time, but it paid better than any job he could have landed on shore. He quickly climbed the ranks, learning everything from engine maintenance to guest relations. By the time he was in his mid-20s, Christopher was one of the most sought-after freelance crewmen for high-end European yacht charters. It was during the summer of 2015 when Christopher found himself stationed aboard a sprawling 150-foot luxury yacht that would anchor in the waters off Croatia during Yacht Week. The event, known for wild parties, celebrity guests, and a veil of exclusivity, drew a crowd that included everyone from hedge fund billionaires to European nobility. But that year, something, or rather someone, stood out. According to Christopher, the guest list for that particular week was unusually secretive. Normally, the crew received brief dossiers on VIPs, their dietary restrictions, personal preferences, quirks, or security risks. This time, the information was sparse. A handful of names, some nicknames, and a single warning: no pictures, no questions. Among the attendees, a woman identified only as M.R. appeared on the list. There was no last name given, no clear background. She was described as guest of a guest, and was not to be addressed directly unless she initiated conversation. Christopher says he didn't think much of it at the time. Mystery guests weren't uncommon. Many powerful individuals brought plus ones, sometimes girlfriends, sometimes models hired for companionship. But this guest was different. She was poised, soft-spoken but commanding. She asked questions about the yacht's operations, showed genuine interest in the crew, and never drank to excess like the others. She spent long periods alone, writing in a leather-bound notebook and watching the horizon. To some, she might have seemed reserved. But to Christopher, she seemed calculating, like someone who was both playing a role and observing everyone else doing the same. He didn't recognize her at the time. She hadn't yet reached the height of her fame. She wasn't yet on the cover of magazines or embedded in the royal family. But in hindsight, Christopher claims that woman was Meghan Markle. Years later, after Meghan became a household name and married into British royalty, Christopher began to revisit his old yacht logs and digital archives. He found the folder marked Croatia, 2015. He opened it. Dozens of photos, dozens of memories. And there she was, the same woman, sitting beside a billionaire oil magnate, sipping a cocktail, laughing with a Russian financier, kneeling near the edge of the yacht, dangling her legs over the Adriatic Sea. But this time, the name was no longer M.R. Now he knew who she was. Initially, he kept the photos to himself. Even as Meghan became more prominent, even as rumors about her past began to swirl online, Christopher remained silent. He was still working in the industry, still relying on referrals from wealthy clients. To leak anything, he feared, would be professional suicide. And then there were the whispers that other crew members who had talked about high-profile guests had found themselves blacklisted, threatened, or worse. In this line of work, silence was currency. But a few years ago, Christopher left the yachting industry. He had saved enough to open a small boat repair business in Marseille, far removed from the chaos of Mediterranean party circuits. He married a Frenchwoman named Isabelle and began to build a quieter life. Still, the memories of that summer lingered. When the pandemic hit and global attention turned toward digital stories, celebrity exposés, and social reckonings, Christopher noticed a shift. The narrative around Meghan Markle was changing. Some hailed her as a trailblazer. Others accused her of manipulation. To Christopher, one thing was clear: the public only knew half the story. When he was contacted by an independent journalist working on a piece about secretive gatherings in the Adriatic, Christopher hesitated. But something about the conversation struck a chord. The journalist wasn't looking for salacious gossip. They wanted evidence. Patterns. Proof. That's when Christopher made the decision to break his silence, not out of malice, but out of what he calls moral clarity. He didn't send the photos right away. First, he had them reviewed by a digital analyst to confirm their authenticity. The metadata, timestamps, GPS coordinates, camera model, hadn't been altered. He then consulted a lawyer about the legality of sharing images in which other individuals were either anonymized or cropped out. Only once he was sure he wouldn't be violating privacy laws did he forward the files. What makes Christopher's account so compelling isn't just the photos, it's his memory. The journal he kept from his yachting days was filled with pages of notes, scribbled during long nights at sea or early mornings before guests awoke. He recorded conversations, behaviors, even gossip among the elite. One passage, dated August 2015, reads, M.R. always 2 steps ahead, knows where every camera is. She's not here to party. She's here to be seen. It's passages like these that offer a glimpse not only into the events themselves, but the way Christopher interpreted them. He wasn't some bitter former employee with an axe to grind. He was, and remains, a man who watched a moment in history unfold, quietly, patiently, and waited for the time when the truth would matter. When asked why now, why speak out in 2025, his response was layered. Part of it, he admits, is personal. I wanted my daughter to know that integrity still means something, he told the journalist. She's only a baby now, but one day, she'll read about the world we lived in. I want her to know I didn't stay quiet when the world was being lied to. Another part, he says, is simply the weight of the secret. Keeping it had begun to wear on him. He says he watched the media fawn over Meghan, portray her as a modern Cinderella, and something inside him recoiled. Not out of resentment, but disbelief. Because the woman he saw on that yacht wasn't an innocent bystander swept up in love. She was ambitious, intelligent, and very, very aware of how the world worked. And so Christopher Jones, once a nameless crew member, now finds himself at the heart of a royal media storm. His name is being cited in articles, his images dissected by metadata analysts, his journal entries studied by researchers. He didn't ask for fame, but in leaking the images, he opened a Pandora's box, one filled not only with questions about Meghan's past, but about the circles of influence that shape celebrity, wealth, and power. His detractors are already calling him a liar, a clout chaser, a disgruntled employee trying to sell a scandal. But Christopher hasn't asked for payment. He hasn't sought a book deal. And aside from a single interview, he's gone back to his quiet life on the French coast. As he told the journalist, I didn't do this to be remembered. I did it so people could finally see. And what people are seeing now may change everything. To understand the gravity of the leaked photos and the accusations swirling around Meghan Markle, it's essential to understand the setting in which these allegations unfold. Croatia Yacht Week is not just a summer getaway. It is not just a glitzy travel package with floating cocktails and sun-drenched selfies. It is an ecosystem, an exclusive subculture where power, money, and indulgence blur the line between vacation and negotiation. The kind of place where deals are struck without contracts, relationships are formed without backstories, and reputations are remade or destroyed over the course of a single Mediterranean sunset. Croatia Yacht Week began years ago as a relatively innocuous gathering of party seekers and sailing enthusiasts who wanted to enjoy the Dalmatian coast. But as word spread among influencers, socialites, and millionaires, the event quickly transformed into something else entirely. Today, it's more akin to a floating Monaco, a whisper network of the ultra-wealthy, where appearances matter more than substance and discretion is currency. For a full week, fleets of luxury yachts zigzag along the Croatian coast, stopping at picturesque ports like Hvar, Split, and Vis. On the surface, it's about nightlife, music, and adventure. Underneath, it's a smokescreen for something deeper. Yacht Week operates in tiers. There's the mainstream crowd, college students, honeymooners, corporate groups who book standard packages and party at the advertised venues. Then there's the elite circuit, the private yachts, the unlisted parties, the password-only beach lounges that are invite-only. This is where the real money resides. Superyachts owned by anonymous shell companies. Helicopter drop-offs to private islands. Hired chefs who cook custom 5-course meals for guests who barely glance up from their phones. It's this upper echelon of the event that has raised eyebrows for years. And it's the same tier that Christopher Jones claims Meghan Markle participated in. What distinguishes Elite Yacht Week from a normal luxury vacation isn't just wealth, it's access. These floating social spheres are curated. Names are handpicked. Models are flown in from Milan and Paris. Instagram influencers are selected weeks in advance, their travel sponsored in exchange for ambience. But not everyone on board is there for photos. Some come with contracts, some with discreet agendas, some, reportedly, with very little clothing and a very clear understanding of what's expected. Multiple insiders have confirmed that many of the women on board these elite yachts are not traditional guests. They are models, entertainers, or aspiring actresses invited under informal arrangements. They aren't paid outright, at least not in a traceable way, but their airfare, lodging, and expenses are covered. In exchange, they mingle, entertain, and build connections. Some refer to them politely as companions. Others, less charitably, use different terms. It's a blurry line, and it's one Meghan Markle's detractors claim she walked during that fateful summer. Christopher Jones, in his notes and interviews, recalls how this ecosystem functioned. Guests were divided by status. The wealthiest, tech CEOs, oil heirs, international bankers, were given top-deck priority. They chose which yacht to board based on who was already aboard. Names were whispered between captains. Some requested quiet girls, others preferred more lively personalities. Jones claims there were unspoken understandings, deals that required no signatures, only body language. Among this complex social ballet, Meghan allegedly stood out. Not because she was the loudest or the most glamorous, far from it. According to Jones, she was unusually composed, not just there for the party, but clearly aware of her surroundings, observing, navigating, targeting conversations, and steering them in ways that made people feel important. It was, as he put it, like watching someone audition for a role no one else knew existed. At the time, she was still relatively unknown. Her stint on Suits had given her a modest profile in the entertainment world, but in Europe, particularly among the yacht elite, her name meant little. That didn't matter. In this world, fame was flexible. What mattered more was how you presented yourself, what you wore, how you engaged, and most importantly, who noticed. And Meghan, according to multiple anonymous attendees who've since come forward, was noticed. One man, speaking under the pseudonym Tomas, claimed he met Meghan aboard a yacht docked off far. He described her as articulate, curious, and clearly more intelligent than the average guest. He noted that she asked pointed questions about his work in London real estate and seemed particularly interested in how luxury branding worked across European markets. It wasn't flirty, he said. It was strategic. She was building something. This is not to suggest anything criminal occurred. No one, not even the most vocal critics, has presented evidence of illegal activity. But the implication is powerful, that Meghan's rise wasn't merely based on talent and good fortune, but on intentional alignment with the right circles. Yacht Week, for all its glamour, has long been a networking haven for individuals seeking more than just fun. The right introduction could land someone a modeling contract, an acting job, or even an influential relationship. And for an ambitious woman on the cusp of reinvention, it offered unparalleled opportunity. There's also the unspoken understanding of selective memory. Very few people who attend elite yacht parties speak about them publicly. NDAs are common. Unofficial agreements even more so. Photos are discouraged. Crew are warned not to gossip. Guests are told to refer to each other by first names only. This culture of silence is part of what makes the leaked images so seismic. It violates a sacred, if unofficial, pact. And it's why Christopher Jones' decision to come forward is seen by some as betrayal, and by others as long overdue transparency. In the past decade, similar revelations have trickled out. Stories of actresses mingling with producers on the Adriatic. Influencers forging partnerships with tech moguls over bottles of Dom Perignon. And while most of these stories faded as quickly as they appeared, the Markle case feels different. Perhaps because of her status. Perhaps because of the implications it has for the monarchy. But mostly because the imagery is so stark. A woman who has built her image on authenticity and empowerment, now linked, visually, digitally, undeniably, to a world that thrives on surface-level deals and invisible exchanges. To the outside world, Yacht Week is about sunsets, sea breezes, and dancing under the stars. But to those who've been behind the scenes, it's something else entirely. It's a marketplace, a stage, a battleground of unspoken ambition where everyone is watching and no one is saying what they're really there for. The men want status. The women want access. The deals are untraceable. And reputations, for better or worse, are born in the shadows of anchored yachts just off the Croatian coast. That Meghan Markle may have participated in this world is not, in itself, an indictment. But the secrecy, the timing, and the precision of her career trajectory beg questions that have long been brushed aside. Why did she travel to Croatia that summer? Who invited her? Who funded the trip? Why was her identity concealed on crew rosters? And most critically, what did she gain from that experience, and what did she leave behind? Long before the royal titles, the the designer gowns, and the paparazzi chase through the streets of Montecito, Meghan Markle was simply another face trying to make it in Hollywood. A working actress navigating a competitive industry, she hustled like so many others, taking small roles, working side jobs, building her brand slowly and strategically. But when examining the leaked photos from Croatia Yacht Week and the allegations tied to them, one must rewind to that lesser-known chapter of her life. Her Hollywood years, the years when she was between spotlights, not quite famous, but never idle. And it's in that in-between space where this entire story begins to tighten its grip. In 2015, Meghan was still playing Rachel Zane on the legal drama Suits, a show that had garnered a decent following, but far from mainstream acclaim. It gave her financial stability and a platform, but not stardom. She was not yet a household name. She wasn't gracing the covers of Vanity Fair or Vogue. She was an actress with moderate success, still seeking her breakout moment. And yet, during that same year, she was allegedly photographed aboard a luxury yacht during one of Europe's most exclusive and secretive events. So what was she doing in Croatia? To understand this, we have to look at the broader tapestry of her activities during those years. Meghan wasn't just an actress. She was also a savvy networker. She had a lifestyle blog called The Tig, which allowed her to travel, write, and mingle with high-end brands under the guise of digital storytelling. The Tig often featured posts about wellness, fashion, wine, and jet-setting. It gave the appearance of a glamorous lifestyle, and more importantly, opened doors to luxury events, brand sponsorships, and influencer-level invitations. Her rise was not accidental. It was curated. Her blog allowed her to frame herself as more than an actress, as a tastemaker, a traveler, a modern woman who could speak on everything from yoga to activism. But behind the curated Instagram posts and thoughtful blog entries was someone highly attuned to visibility. Meghan, according to many who knew her during this time, wasn't just waiting for opportunity, she was creating it. Her inner circle during those years was also evolving. She had formed connections with high-powered friends through Soho House, an invitation-only members club known for its elite clientele of creatives, celebrities, and industry insiders. One name that comes up repeatedly is Marcus Anderson, a Soho House executive and Meghan's longtime friend. Marcus had access to influential people. He was known to arrange trips, events, and introductions for rising stars, many of whom wanted to fast-track their careers through proximity to power. It's worth noting that Marcus was spotted with Meghan on multiple trips, including private vacations and elite gatherings. Insiders claim that some of these trips were social mixers, where actresses, models, and influencers were brought together with wealthy patrons, producers, and executives in environments where networking blurred into something more transactional. According to yacht insider Christopher Jones, Meghan's alleged appearance during Croatia Yacht Week fits into this pattern. She wasn't there for leisure. She wasn't traveling with fellow cast members or on a brand partnership tied to her blog. She appeared to be there under a different pretense, a guest of a wealthy attendee, without direct booking records, and with her identity partially concealed. Jones said she wasn't introduced using her full name, and the crew was instructed not to photograph or formally log her details. These inconsistencies raise questions. Suits had a tight filming schedule in Toronto, but Meghan was known to travel on her off weeks. She posted online about visiting New York, attending fashion shows, and traveling through Europe, often with vague captions and limited detail. There's a noticeable blank space in her travel timeline for the period that overlaps with Yacht Week. No Instagram photos, no blog posts, no records of where she was, and that absence, in retrospect, is beginning to speak volumes. Friends from that era have also weighed in, though cautiously. One former acquaintance, speaking on condition of anonymity, recalled that Meghan was very private about certain trips. While she would gush about Fashion Week or brand partnerships, there were other events she'd mention in passing and then go quiet. She once said she was going on a boat trip with friends, the source said, but wouldn't say where, just that it would be a networking opportunity. Another acquaintance noted that Meghan once returned from Europe with several new contacts in her phone, men linked to European real estate and tech, some of whom she never mentioned again. These subtle details might seem inconsequential, but in the context of a high-level gathering like Croatia Yacht Week, they become pieces of a larger puzzle. If Meghan was indeed present aboard a private yacht with elite clients, under a shield of anonymity, it begs the question, what was her role there? To be clear, there is no definitive proof that Meghan participated in any illicit or inappropriate behavior during this time. The photos, while potentially damaging to her carefully managed image, do not show any wrongdoing. What they do show is presence, physical evidence that she was in a place she never publicly acknowledged, alongside people she never mentioned, during a period of her life where every public move was otherwise accounted for. There are also questions about why such a successful actress would involve herself in an environment so far removed from her stated goals. But perhaps that's exactly the point. Success in Hollywood, especially for women without powerful connections or major backing, often demands more than just talent. It requires visibility. It requires access. And sometimes, it requires entry into spaces that offer informal agreements and unspoken alliances. Christopher Jones described Meghan's behavior aboard the yacht as intentional. She was kind, poised, and carried herself with confidence. But she was also reserved, declining drinks when others were partying, and spending long hours in quiet conversation with specific individuals. He believed she was there for more than just pleasure. She had a plan, he said. You could see it in the way she spoke to people. She was building something. Over the years, Meghan has spoken about the challenges she faced in Hollywood. She often mentioned being typecast or overlooked because of her mixed-race background. And while those obstacles were undoubtedly real, there's now a growing narrative that she may have also been leveraging exclusive social channels to bypass the traditional routes. Whether through Soho House connections, private yacht gatherings, or curated brand partnerships, Meghan appears to have built a network designed to elevate her status, not just as an actress, but as a public figure with influence. This strategy would ultimately pay off. Just 2 years later, she met Prince Harry. Their courtship, initially under wraps, accelerated quickly, and by 2018, she was not only a duchess but a global icon. But that rapid rise, from cable drama actress to member of the British royal family, now appears less like a fairy tale and more like a blueprint. There are many who will argue that Meghan did what anyone in her position would do, that she played the game, worked the system, and succeeded. And in many ways, that's true. But for a public figure who has positioned herself as a champion of transparency, female empowerment, and authenticity, the idea that she may have climbed the ladder through elite back channels contradicts the very values she claims to uphold. The Croatian yacht episode, if true, represents more than just a curious footnote. It suggests that the Meghan Markle the public has come to know, the humanitarian, the outsider, the brave voice challenging tradition, may also be someone who knew exactly how to navigate hidden worlds, power brokers, and exclusive circles to get what she wanted. Until recently, the rumors about Meghan Markle's alleged ties to Croatia Yacht Week were just that, rumors. Speculation, forum chatter, whispers floating in the shadows of high society blogs and Reddit threads. But that all changed the moment Christopher Jones decided to lift the veil. In one of the most explosive digital leaks since the rise of royal scandal culture, a series of photos emerged from his private archive. And these weren't grainy tabloid snapshots or suspicious lookalikes captured from afar. These were high-resolution, clear, and embedded with something that makes them far harder to dismiss: GPS metadata. The photo dump was not broadcast across Twitter or Instagram like some viral sensation. It wasn't sold to tabloids for a quick payday. Instead, it was shared quietly with a trusted European investigative journalist. The journalist, known for past work on offshore finance and celebrity corruption, confirmed that Christopher provided the images with zero financial demand, just a firm condition that the truth be verified before anything was published. The first image shows a group of guests aboard a sprawling white yacht floating off the coast of Var. The sun casts a golden glow on the deck. Glasses of rose glisten under the Mediterranean light. In the center, seated on a striped sun lounger, is a woman in a navy blue one-piece swimsuit, oversized sunglasses resting on her head, and a book in hand. The woman bears a striking resemblance to Meghan Markle. Her bone structure, posture, even the trademark subtle smirk that fans and critics alike have come to recognize. But this was only the beginning. Over the course of nearly 40 photos, the woman is seen in various settings on the yacht. laughing with guests, standing by the railing as the sun sets behind her, leaning in toward a man in a crisp white shirt who appears to be whispering something into her ear. In one particularly compelling image, she is seated cross-legged at a teak dining table, surrounded by men in tailored linen as a steward pours wine. Her face is turned slightly to the side, caught mid-conversation. It is elegant, intimate, and it tells a story far more complex than a vacation snapshot. What makes these photos so damning, however, isn't merely the visuals, it's the metadata. Each image file came with original metadata intact. For those unfamiliar, metadata is a set of data embedded in digital files that includes information like the time a photo was taken, the GPS location, camera settings, and even the type of device used. In this case, the GPS coordinates point precisely to several anchorages used during Croatia Yacht Week: Var, Vis, Kamiza, and Steniva Cove, all major stops along the luxury yacht circuit in that region. The timestamp on the photos places them between July 19th and July 26th, 2015, the exact dates of that year's Croatia Yacht Week event. The camera used was a Canon EOS 5D Mark III, a professional-grade DSLR often carried by private photographers or onboard crew hired to capture memories for VIP guests. The date and time stamps align perfectly with sunrise and sunset times in the region, further validating the authenticity of the data. Forensics experts consulted by the journalist confirmed that the metadata showed no signs of tampering. The photos were not altered. The data had not been scrubbed or edited. In digital terms, this was a clean chain of custody. One expert said, "It would take an enormous amount of technical expertise to fake this level of metadata and make it consistent across dozens of images. That alone makes the file set highly credible." When asked why he took the photos in the first place, Christopher Jones explained that he often documented life on the yacht, partly out of habit, partly for personal records, and occasionally at the request of guests who didn't bring their own photographer. But these particular shots, he says, were never meant to be public. They were part of a folder he labeled Unfiled, Croatia 2015, and had not been accessed for years until news cycles around Meghan and Prince Harry began spinning with renewed controversy. One of the more curious details from the set involves the people around Meghan in the photos. Many have had their faces blurred or cropped to protect their identities, though a few are still identifiable through distinctive jewelry or tattoos. Among them is a man widely believed to be the billionaire tech investor who had been publicly linked to organizing that particular yacht gathering. Another appears to be a well-known art dealer from Monaco. Both have declined to comment on the leak, but the silence itself speaks volumes. Another photo shows Meghan, or someone who looks strikingly like her, entering the cabin of the yacht with a tall, silver-haired man behind her. The image is not explicit, and no inappropriate behavior is visible, but the body language suggests intimacy or familiarity. The moment is casual, fleeting, and yet, in this context, deeply revealing. Critics of the leak have tried to poke holes in the evidence, pointing to the possibility of lookalikes or digitally altered imagery. But so far, no one has been able to disprove the authenticity of the files. The digital fingerprints remain intact, and facial recognition software applied by third-party analysts has returned a 92% match with archived images of Meghan from around the same period. Not definitive, but highly suggestive. The most damning image may be the final one in the set, a candid moment where the woman, allegedly Meghan, is seated alone on the edge of the yacht at dusk, feet dangling just above the water. She's looking out toward the horizon, arms crossed around her knees. There is a look of contemplation on her face, a stillness that's almost cinematic. It's not provocative. It's not staged. It's human. And it's that photo that has divided public opinion more than any other. To supporters of Meghan Markle, the entire leak is a coordinated character assassination designed to undermine a woman who broke through the highest walls of British tradition. They argue that attending a party, even an elite one, is not a crime. That Meghan has the right to privacy, the right to past experiences, and that none of this should matter. But to critics, this photo dump represents a breach in the narrative she's tightly controlled since entering the royal spotlight. They say it shows her as someone who actively embedded herself in elite circles, not simply by luck or talent, but through proximity, planning, and presence in controversial settings. The issue isn't just that she was there. It's that she never mentioned it, never acknowledged it, and actively curated a public image that excluded it. There's also a growing concern about what else might be out there. If one crew member like Christopher Jones held on to this many photos for nearly a decade, how many others have similar files? How many other yachts? How many private events? And how long before more digital evidence finds its way into the spotlight? Legal experts watching the situation unfold have expressed that while the photos may not break any laws, they open the door to reputational scrutiny. If Meghan attempts to block their publication, she may draw more attention to them. If she remains silent, critics may interpret that silence as validation. It is a public relations minefield, and one that seems to be growing with every passing hour. The photos, in the end, are just moments in time, still images caught in the lens of a man who never expected to become part of a global controversy. But when those images are loaded with location data, time-stamped against the calendar of a well-known secretive event, and feature one of the world's most discussed public figures, they become something more. They become evidence, a visual contradiction to a carefully crafted persona. Whether they are viewed as innocent relics of a glamorous summer or clues to a deeper, more calculated rise to power depends entirely on the eye of the beholder. But one thing is certain. Once a picture enters the public domain, especially one embedded with proof, the story will never be the same again. In the digital age, photographs no longer speak with mere pixels and shadows. They whisper secrets through the data embedded beneath the surface. This embedded information, known as metadata, has become a powerful tool for verifying truth in an era saturated with manipulation, misinformation, and image fakery. In the case of the Christopher Jones leak, it's the metadata, not just the images themselves, that is proving hardest to refute, and it's what's drawing the attention of digital forensics experts across the globe. Christopher Jones didn't just leak a series of photos. He delivered a digital dossier. Each image contained what's known as EXIF data, exchangeable image file format. This data is automatically saved by most digital cameras and smartphones and can include the date, time, camera model, settings like shutter speed and aperture, and, crucially, GPS coordinates if the device has geotagging enabled. It's this last piece that's drawing the most attention. Within hours of the photo leak being verified by the European journalist, a panel of independent digital forensics experts was contacted to assess the integrity of the data. Their task wasn't to weigh in on the morality of the content or the identity of the individuals in the photographs. Their job was strictly technical. Is the metadata real, and can it be trusted? Dr. Isaac Lennox, a senior digital forensics analyst based in Berlin and a former consultant for Europol cybercrime units, was among the first to be shown the raw files. His assessment was blunt and unwavering. These images have not been tampered with, he said. The metadata is consistent with the camera model, lighting conditions, and known geographical data from that week in Croatia. There is no indication of forgery. Lennox went on to explain that most attempts to edit or alter metadata leave behind digital traces. When an image's GPS or timestamp data is modified using software, subtle inconsistencies emerge, often detectable by comparing the file's creation and modification logs, or by running the file through software that reveals editing fingerprints. If someone tried to fake these, Lennox added, they'd have to simulate every condition of the Adriatic coastline, down to the longitude, sea tide, and time of sunset. These files match real-world data exactly. Another expert, Priya Devan, a cybersecurity researcher who helped uncover image-based forgeries in a recent international sports betting scandal, echoed Lennox's findings. People underestimate how difficult it is to fake metadata across a set of photos, especially when you're dealing with dozens of images taken at different times, angles, and lighting conditions. It's not just about slapping on a location tag. You have to match shadows, temperature, timestamp accuracy, and natural anomalies like lens flares. That level of consistency across these files is nearly impossible to fabricate. Devon reviewed the photo set over a weekend, running them through 3 separate forensics programs, including Amped Authenticate and Photoforensics, industry-standard software used by law enforcement to validate image integrity. Her verdict was as conclusive as Lennox's. Not only were these images unaltered, she said, but they carry the digital fingerprint of a single, uninterrupted photography session. The camera model, a Canon EOS 5D Mark III, is well known for embedding rich metadata, and none of that data has been stripped or altered. For skeptics who believe metadata can easily be manipulated, and it's true that it can under certain circumstances, experts like Lennox and Devon point out that genuine manipulation rarely goes undetected under close scrutiny. Anyone can install a metadata editor, Lennox said. But making it fool the forensic systems used by professionals is another matter entirely. And with every layer of analysis, these photos continue to hold up. The GPS coordinates specifically have become a central point of focus. They match precisely with known coordinates of Var, Vis, and Komiža, popular destinations along the Croatian coast and confirmed stops during the 2015 edition of Croatia Yacht Week. One file placed the yacht at a mooring 2.3 kilometers south of Var Harbor, a known party spot for private yacht anchorages. Another image's metadata aligned perfectly with sunset on July 21, 2015, further verifying that the time data embedded in the image corresponds with real environmental conditions at that location. Meteorologists were even brought in to analyze the cloud formations and light angles seen in the background of the images, confirming that the weather in the photos matches records from that same day. "The sky never lies," said Emil Novak, a Croatian weather researcher who reviewed the photos. "You can fake many things, but you can't fake the sky." Those are July 2015 skies over Var. No doubt. Then comes the question of the camera. The Canon EOS 5D Mark III is not a consumer-grade device. It's a professional tool, often used by wedding photographers, photojournalists, and high-end yacht crew tasked with documenting the lives of VIP guests. This camera records deep EXIF data, including serial number, lens type, and firmware version, all of which were found to be consistent across the images. Jones, when asked about the camera, confirmed it had been issued to him by the yacht's owner for documentation purposes. The serial number on the EXIF data matches the inventory record from the yacht's equipment list, a document that was never supposed to be public but was quietly shared with the journalist to strengthen the chain of authenticity. That connection, linking the camera metadata with a real-world inventory document, became a pivotal moment in confirming the legitimacy of the photos. Legal professionals following the story have also weighed in. While metadata doesn't necessarily prove what a person was doing in a photo, it does place them in a very specific place at a very specific time. In court, said American attorney Rachel Fitzman, metadata can be as powerful as a fingerprint. If you combine the timestamp with the location and then match that with known events, like Croatia Yacht Week, you create a contextual map of truth. She added that in civil cases, especially involving defamation or image misuse, metadata has been successfully used to defend whistleblowers and journalists who leaked sensitive materials, so long as they could demonstrate authenticity. In this case, it's not hearsay or subjective interpretation. The data speaks. Even more surprising is that the metadata also aligns with Meghan Markle's absence from any social media posts or press appearances during that exact week. Her typically curated presence online went silent between July 19th and July 26th, 2015. On Instagram, she posted nothing. The TIG, her lifestyle blog, had no new entries. Even paparazzi photos of Meghan, which were fairly regular during those months, show a complete blackout during the same stretch of time. A digital void that, when paired with GPS data placing her off the Croatian coast, becomes harder to chalk up as coincidence. The final test came from an unexpected source, Google Earth. When the coordinates from one photo were entered into Google Earth's 2015 satellite imagery archive, they revealed a small cluster of yachts anchored precisely where the photo claimed it was taken. While satellite photos aren't detailed enough to identify individual people, they confirmed that yachts were in that spot at that time. And in digital verification, overlapping sources like this are considered gold. In short, the metadata confirms three things. The photos were taken aboard a luxury yacht during Croatia Yacht Week, using a specific professional camera and at locations and times that align perfectly with independent real-world records. This level of verification is rare. In many high-profile leaks, images are grainy, metadata has been scrubbed, or sources are reluctant to disclose details. But in the case of Christopher Jones and the Meghan Markle Yacht Week photos, The data is clear, layered, and consistent, a trifecta of forensic credibility. The metadata doesn't tell us how Meghan got there, who invited her, or what conversations happened on that deck. But it tells us she was there. And in a world where image is everything, presence can be more damning than intent. Behind every luxury yacht floating off the coast of Croatia during Yacht Week, there is more than champagne and curated playlists. There is money, staggering amounts of it. Not the kind that can be measured in celebrity endorsements or primetime TV salaries, but old money, tech empires, energy cartels, and foreign investments that move silently through shell companies and handshake deals. These aren't the faces you see on billboards. These are the men behind them, powerful, discreet, and perpetually offshore. So when the leaked photos from Christopher Jones emerged, showing Meghan Markle aboard a luxury yacht during the 2015 Croatia Yacht Week, digital sleuths and investigators began asking an obvious but explosive question: who else was there? The images provide some clues. Though most of the faces have been cropped or blurred, several distinctive features, a luxury watch, a yacht name partially visible in a background frame, a recognizable silhouette, were enough to ignite a digital manhunt. Soon, speculation gave way to substance. Cross-referencing yacht registration numbers, port logs, and even archived social media from other attendees led to a short list of potential names. And that list is staggering. One of the most prominent figures suspected to have been aboard is Lucian Gazinski, a discreet but incredibly wealthy Russian investor. He made his fortune in energy extraction across Eastern Europe and Central Asia, later pivoting to offshore real estate and hedge fund management in Monaco. Though he has kept a low profile, Gazinski's presence at high-profile yacht events is well documented. In fact, leaked flight records from a private airstrip near Tivat show that his Gulfstream G650 touched down just one day before the yacht in question departed Split for its week-long voyage. According to Jones, a man fitting Gazinski's description was seen having a long, private conversation with the woman alleged to be Meghan. They sat apart from the others, he wrote in his journal. It was clear that he wasn't just another guest. He was a gatekeeper. While it remains unclear what the two discussed, sources close to the European journalist working on this investigation suggest that Gazinski later told associates he was impressed by her composure and ambition. Then there's Charles Bingham, a British-born, Dubai-based luxury developer. Known as the Quiet Duke in financial circles, Bingham has built entire artificial islands and resorts for ultra-high-net-worth clients. His signature? Discretion. He's also known to host elite networking events on his 180-foot yacht, the Bleeding Edge, which was photographed docked in Var during that same week. Matching timestamps from local port records confirm that Bingham's crew filed mooring paperwork for the vessel on July 21, 2015, aligning perfectly with the metadata from one of the photos in the leak. Crew logs anonymously leaked to the media reveal an entry listing M. Guest, female, American, brunette, 30s boarding the yacht during a cocktail event. Bingham himself has declined to comment, but a former steward aboard the Bleeding Edge remembers Meghan by name. She wasn't loud or brash, he said. She had that air of someone who understood the room, who to talk to, who to ignore. She wasn't just there for fun. She was positioning. Another billionaire linked to the event is Vincenzo Corelli, an Italian venture capitalist known for early investments in social media platforms and AI startups. Corelli is flamboyant, a contrast to Gazinski and Bingham. He's known to post cryptic photos on Instagram from his yacht parties, showing only shadows or back-facing silhouettes. In a now-deleted photo posted in late July 2015, he shared a shot of a woman with long, dark hair in a wide-brimmed sun hat sipping wine, her face hidden. The caption read, "Some secrets are better left offshore." While the photo has been deleted, Internet Archives preserved it, and metadata from that image. Yes, more metadata. Match the coordinates near the island of Vis. Digital comparison tools now suggest that the figure in Corelli's photo matches the same swimsuit and hairstyle seen in the photos from Christopher Jones. Was Corelli capturing Meghan, or simply a lookalike? The ambiguity only fuels the fire. Beyond these three, there are others whose names have circulated more quietly. A South African mining magnate, a French pharmaceutical heir, a mysterious man known only as Misha, who reportedly paid cash for an entire support yacht. What they all share in common is that none of them are strangers to these types of gatherings, and all of them wield more influence behind the scenes than many global politicians. Jones, in his original statement, was careful not to name names. But he did confirm that several of the men aboard had previously hosted European actresses and influencers during similar events. Yacht Week, for them, is more than just a party, it's a casting call. A week-long vetting process where charm, conversation, and subtle alignment with power can lead to long-term arrangements. Whether that means introductions to producers, financial backing, or simply an invitation to the next exclusive villa retreat is never stated outright. But the implication is always there. These aren't sugar daddies in the traditional sense. These are strategists, image consultants, brokers of fame. And for women seeking upward mobility, proximity to these men can translate into visibility, opportunity, and status, if they play their cards right. According to another crew member who served drinks during the week in question, the mood aboard the yacht was more serious than festive. There were conversations happening in corners, he said. People making deals. People watching. Every move was calculated. This wasn't a party. It was a chessboard. That matches what others have said about Meghan's alleged behavior during the week. She wasn't the wild one. She didn't dance until dawn or drink to excess. She asked questions, took notes, engaged in intense conversations. Her ability to blend sophistication with curiosity left an impression. One guest reportedly remarked, "She's not here to be seen. She's here to be remembered." For critics, the question is clear. What did she gain from this event? For supporters, the response is equally pointed. What's the crime in networking? Still, the presence of so many powerful and secretive figures on the same vessel complicates the narrative. The British royal family, for all its rigid traditions, is hypersensitive to associations. Being seen with the wrong person, especially those with ties to oligarchs or industries under scrutiny, could spell disaster for even the most distant royal. And therein lies the most dangerous implication. Did Prince Harry know about these connections when he first began dating Meghan? If he did he care? If he didn't, how might this information, now public and explosive, affect their already strained relationship with the institution of monarchy? The billionaire roster from that fateful week continues to grow as researchers, reporters, and citizen journalists dig deeper. More names are being whispered in digital corners. More photos are being cross-referenced. And more dots are being connected in a constellation that seems to orbit one woman's careful trajectory toward global recognition. In the world of celebrity, few things are more potent or more damaging than a persistent whisper. Whispers don't need hard proof. They don't rely on headlines or court documents. They thrive in shadowy corners of the internet, on closed forums, in the exclusive conversations between PR agents, talent scouts, and old Hollywood fixers. And for years, long before Meghan Markle married into the British royal family, those whispers followed her, not loudly, not clearly, but with enough consistency to form a murmur of suspicion. Was Meghan once part of the elusive and controversial world of yacht girls? To understand how this narrative developed, one must first understand the term itself. The label yacht girl has been used, sometimes unfairly, often exploitatively, to describe young women who are invited aboard luxury yachts owned by billionaires, oligarchs, or powerful moguls for parties, companionship, and in some cases, discreet arrangements. It's a world where luxury meets ambiguity, where boundaries are blurred, and where personal ambition can be silently negotiated on the open sea. The term doesn't always imply wrongdoing. Some women attend these gatherings for networking, for travel, or to associate with people who can open doors. But because these events often operate in a gray zone, with non-disclosure agreements, few public records, and powerful men pulling the strings, any woman linked to the lifestyle finds her reputation hanging in a delicate balance. For Meghan Markle, that balance was tipped the moment her name entered global consciousness. As soon as her relationship with Prince Harry became public in late 2016, online sleuths, gossip bloggers, and royal historians began combing through her past. Her filmography, her interviews, her family history, every fragment of her former life was turned over like a stone. And among the recurring themes was a connection to the luxury party circuit. photos of Meghan vacationing on yachts in the Mediterranean, mentions of her presence at exclusive events in Ibiza and Dubai, friendships with prominent socialites and Soho House insiders who had long-standing ties to the yacht scene. The most persistent rumors placed her in the company of Marcus Anderson, a powerful figure within Soho House, known not only for managing VIP experiences, but for arranging curated introductions between influencers and power players. Meghan herself has acknowledged that Marcus played a pivotal role in her social life. He's been credited with introducing her to many of. Though no evidence ever confirmed wrongdoing, critics argue that these relationships were transactional in nature, stepping stones in a much larger personal brand strategy. A former Hollywood PR executive, speaking anonymously, told a journalist in 2018 that Meghan was very good at showing up at the right places with the right people. She didn't stumble into royalty. She walked toward it in heels. The comment was dismissed by many at the time as misogynistic and dismissive. But in light of the Croatia Yacht Week photo dump, it now carries a weight that's harder to brush off. Other indicators added to the speculation. One such red flag for critics was Meghan's participation in a few ambiguous private events prior to her suit's breakout. In 2013, for instance, she was rumored to have been part of an exclusive retreat in Sardinia hosted by a Russian-American businessman known for inviting actresses, models, and Instagram influencers to his private yacht parties. While there are no photos directly linking Meghan to this event, multiple online sources pointed to a last-minute appearance cancellation she made at a charity gala in Toronto, allegedly due to international travel commitments. More significantly, an old Tumblr blog that circulated prior to her royal fame included a now-deleted post suggesting Meghan was part of a group of ambitious brunettes flown into Mykonos by a Saudi prince's agent for client entertainment. The post didn't mention her by name, but eagle-eyed followers made inferences based on timelines and overlapping appearances with other women later seen in her social media photos. The claim was unverifiable, as many such posts are, but it added fuel to an already smoldering fire. The whispers weren't confined to anonymous blogs. Certain royal watchers and biographers also made veiled allusions. In his earlier drafts of a controversial royal biography, one author allegedly included a section referencing Meghan's social maneuvering during her pre-fame years, implying connections to European high society not through formal introductions, but through private invitations extended during summer yacht seasons. That section was reportedly edited out before publication, allegedly due to legal concerns and potential defamation threats. What complicates these allegations further is Meghan's own narrative. She has always positioned herself, publicly at least, as an advocate for women's empowerment, an opponent of exploitation, and a voice against the objectification of women. These values are noble and admirable, but they also stand in stark contrast to the version of events painted by the yacht girl rumors. And while contradictions alone do not prove guilt, they raise valid questions about the consistency and curation of her public image. Then there's the issue of silence. Meghan has, to date, never addressed these allegations directly. Not during interviews with Oprah, not in her podcast, not in the press run for her Netflix docuseries. Some argue that silence is wise, that addressing baseless rumors only gives them credibility. Others suggest that silence, when faced with credible patterns and emerging evidence, feels more like avoidance than strength. Supporters of Meghan fiercely defend her, calling the yacht girl narrative a sexist trope designed to discredit ambitious women. They argue that the term itself is rooted in misogyny, the idea that a woman's proximity to wealth must be transactional, that success in entertainment is inherently tainted if it includes elite social networking. And they may have a point. Many male actors and celebrities have built careers through similar networking without having their reputations questioned in the same way. Still, context matters. When viewed in isolation, attending yacht parties doesn't necessarily say anything about a person's character. But when it's coupled with metadata-confirmed photos, crew member journals, and a decade's worth of rumors, it becomes more than a casual detail. It becomes a theme, a recurring pattern of behavior and choices, one that invites scrutiny, not as a moral judgment, but as a search for truth. The broader question, then, isn't whether Meghan was a yacht girl in the literal sense. It's whether her rise to global prominence involved a series of curated steps through elite social ecosystems, including luxury yachts, exclusive retreats, and arrangements with men who held the keys to influence. If so, that doesn't make her unique. It makes her strategic, calculating, perhaps, but no more than countless others who have climbed similar ladders. What makes this revelation significant is not what it implies about Meghan as a person, but what it challenges about the story she's told. If she navigated the same corridors of wealth and power as so many others, corridors she has often criticized, then her image as a disruptor, a rebel royal, and a truth-teller becomes more complex. Less fairy tale, more fable. The whispers may never go away. But with photographic evidence, GPS metadata, and eyewitness testimonies now entering the public sphere, those whispers are becoming louder, sharper, harder to ignore. What happens next may depend not on what Meghan says, but on what else surfaces, and how much longer her carefully constructed story can hold against the crashing waves of a past she never wanted revealed.